Welcome, everyone. This is the episode we look forward to all year at NotInHallOfFame.com. It is the announcement show for the United States Athletic Hall of Fame. And in the words of the great David Byrne, how did we get here? Well, 16 years ago, I started a blog called NotInHallOfFame.com, and I can admit it now. Basically, it was just my way of trying to get Kiss in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Wow.
And they did, along with two other projects I wanted, Rush and Kraftwerk. I'd like to say I had something to do with it. I probably did not, but it expanded into the worlds of baseball, hockey, football, pro wrestling. And through all of that, that's how I met all of you. And I have to sort of acknowledge my co-host on this. You ever go to a party and you meet somebody for the first time and it's sort of like, oh my God, he's got the orange suit and I've got the powder blue suit from Dumb and Dumber. And that's how I feel about Evan Nolan. We've only met each other one time, of course, at a Hall of Fame, in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but I feel like I've known him all my life. And we started podcasting together. I think there are times I've talked to you more than I talk to my own wife.
That's a problem, man. You're going to work on that.
Yeah. She's always working. It's not
she is always working.
Personality.
So I discovered Kirk's site 14 years ago. I looked it up, Kirk.
Oh, okay, was it?
I started volunteering to write for you in 2011. So I was 14 years ago. I actually am the first person who came up with the NASCAR list, which is hilarious because I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. So we've been doing this a long time. We've been podcasting a long time. We're in year 5 or 6 of the, used to be weekly. Now it's a little bit less. We're going to get back into a little bit more coming forward.
Yeah, we're in season 6 of the Hall of Fame show, where basically we just talk about a lot of Hall of Fame related issues or concerns or just whatever comes to mind regarding those institutions. And on a podcast that we did roughly probably 5 years ago, both of us had a eureka moment. I don't know if it was at the same time.
I'll tell you what it was, because I sometimes read the famous people who've passed away.
Okay.
And we had someone from the Canadian Hall of Fame pass away and someone from the Australian Hall of Fame passed away.
Okay.
Like, hey, is there American Sports Hall of Fame? And the answer was no. And then we decided to do something about it. And I thought it was kind of a joke. You're like, hey, jump on this podcast. I jump on the podcast and it's like Richmond Webb and 3 Olympians and other things. I'm like, oh, this is a little more serious than I thought it was. So we decided to incorporate, and now we're taking a little time. This is going to be the 3rd class here for the Hall of Fame. So just, should I explain or we can keep going through?
Basically we've gone through this warts and all. And before we sort of explain how this all works, we will admit, we're the first 2 people to admit that we're learning as we go. But we took a lot of the things that we disliked about other halls of fame and things that we do like. And one thing that always bothered us is the lack of transparency. And we're going to tell you how people finished. And we're going to take suggestions, and we are going to try to keep growing to make this a very solid and diverse group of selectors. And for the most part, we've done that. That may not be shown right here with this group, but we have. And we're looking to sort of expand on that. And if this is something that you want to be a part of, please hit Evan or myself up, and we'd love to hear your input. Evan, if you want to sort of go through the rules.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, it is the Hall of Fame announcement, so I'm wearing the suit, much to Kirk got mad at me when I did this, but I do it every time. But anyway, so we had a vote. We had this year we have contributors, coaches, and athletes. So on our contributors list this year, we had 93 contributors. Coaches, we had 129 that could be voted for, and athletes, we had 124. So this went up to the public. Public has been voting. These are not our class. Let me put that out there. This is what the public voted for. So like I said, we've had so far, for example, on the coaches side, we've had Vince Lombardi, Red Auerbach, George Halas, John Wooden, Bill Belichick, Herb Brooks, Curly Lambeau, Paul Brown, Amos Alonzo Stagg, Walter Camp, and Joe Gibbs are the ones we have in so far. Are those the 11 greatest coaches of all time? Not necessarily, but they're the ones who people were voted in by the public. So just, We don't fudge the numbers. If we had last year, number 26 out of our 25 athletes we had get in, number 26 was Pete Rose, which would have been great for the Hall publicity wise. But we don't fudge the numbers. So they are what they are. And yeah, so we're hoping to go through this. Should we have everyone just introduce themselves who's around here quickly?
Yeah.
So Gil, why don't we start with you?
Gil Florentino, former right-hander pitcher, world traveler, played in a lot of places, mainly Dominican Republic national team, couple of Division I college, and I will say former coach with one of the people in the panel, Mr. Jack Moore.
Excellent.
Brother.
Jack, can you introduce you? Why don't you go next? Jack Moore.
Jack Moore in Virginia, more to consider, coached all my life. One of the greatest pleasures in all of sports was coaching with this guy, Gil Florentino. So we go way back, and I've been really blessed, work with a lot of kids that ended up in professional baseball. Used to work in instruction, moved to Virginia Beach several years ago and had an insane amount of talent come through Virginia at that time. So I've been really, really blessed, been around a lot of great people, met Kirk. I'm in the podcasting game now. We've gotten along really well, and that's why I'm here tonight. Thank you, gentlemen, for having me.
Thank you. Chris Mouradian.
Hey, how you doing? Chris Mouradian, part of the non-Hall of Fame group here. Have co-host duties with the All In show with Dave and Kirk, and then Kirk and I do the elevator show usually at the beginning of the month, kind of talk about who's helped or hurt their cases with their performance over the last 30 days or so.
Excellent. Dave, you want to go next?
Yeah, Dave, known as Longhorn Dave on Sports, down here in Houston, Texas Longhorn, Houston Astros, Houston Oilers, Texans, but broad sports fan. I pretty much like all the major sports, and love to contribute. Kurt and I connected around here, and love to talk about the broad world of sports.
Excellent. Greg?
I'm Greg Oliver from up in Toronto. I've been writing about sports for, 30 years now. My expertise is probably hockey and pro wrestling, but I've also been working with the Sport Magazine archives the last 30 years, 20 years, I guess, probably. And so I have a lot of interest in historical things and worked at Sport Classic Books and learned a lot of historical stuff working there too.
Excellent. Jack Silverstein.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jack. I am Chicago's sports historian. Very fortunate to meet Kirk and Evan, and Ron and Chris and Dave and Upton. But starting with Kirk and Evan, I don't know, about 5 years ago on Not in the Hall of Fame. I am a writer, author of this book, Why We Root. And Greg, I wouldn't have brought this up. You mentioned that you're doing work with the sport archives. I have bought several bound editions of sport just by, like first 6 months of 1974, just like looking through and finding items that are worthwhile to me. So I'd love to hear at an appropriate time more about what you're doing. But the covers here are amazing. Here's Kareem on the Bucks.
Cool. Ron, are you there? Ron, you're muted.
Okay, here I am. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Ron Kaatz, Denver, Colorado. Hall of Fame advocate for greatness, regardless of whether it's my team. Right now, you can see very subtly, Richmond Webb is kind of the campaign that I'm helping with. I'm a Broncos fan, so Randy Gradishar, as some of you know, we got in the Hall of Fame just from an awareness standpoint. Excuse me. I like reading books, especially this one. It's really good. Highly recommend. I also have our friend Upton's book, but I can't find where I put it here.
I'll send you one.
No, I have it. I have it.
go.
I have it. It's somewhere in this mess of living room. I've been under the weather for a couple of weeks, but I'm proud to be part of this. I think it's a great voice, and hopefully we can continue to do more. It's a privilege to collaborate with y'all.
Great work with you too, Ron. And I saved you for last, Upton. The an actual voter for some of these other halls of fame, Upton Bell. Go ahead, Upton, introduce yourself.
Well, no, number one, I'm not a voter
Oh,
for the NFL Hall of Fame. I wish I was, because I would vote to change some of the rules and have it more open like you guys do. But I go all the way back. My father founded the Philadelphia Eagles. He then owned the Pittsburgh Steelers with Art Bruni. I was the personnel director, scouted a lot in the 60s and 70s around the country. Then became the general manager of the Patriots. Summarily fired, but 2 years later, getting in a fight with the owners. Then went on to do radio and television all the way through, and actually have now, you guys might be interested, two of the biggest collections in the country. One at UMass Amherst, which takes a look at football, the Bell family, going all the way back to letters we found with Abraham Lincoln and my great-grandfather, going back into the 1880s. That's a history of pro football, artifacts, the whole routine. Another one at UMass Lowell, which is over 500 authors from around the world, not only sports, that takes a look at the starting in the 30s and 40s. Luckily, I'll finish by saying that through my mother and father, I was exposed to not only the NFL, but college football, boxing, you name it, every major professional sport, baseball, hockey, basketball. I was able to see it from like the 40s on into today. So I consider myself lucky and honored to be with your group.
thank you, Upton. All right, Kirk, back to you, my friend.
Okay, so we're ready to begin. I guess we've got a slideshow that we're going to be doing.
Hold on a second. Let me get back to the beginning of the slideshow before we get that going. There we go.
So while you're doing that, just the rules for people who are joining us for the first time and might be wondering why such and such isn't in. A, they might already be in classes 1 or 2. But another thing is you have to be at least 50 years old. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I had a conversation today with someone in my building when I said what I was doing today. And they said, oh, so we'll be talking about Serena Williams. Not today, but I'm sure in 6 years we will be, because she's currently 44. So we just put 50 as a blanket age, thinking that, pretty much by that time, your best years are behind you. We weren't sure with Tom Brady. We thought he might continue to go on. But
although, to be fair, the 50 rule is actually for Tiger Woods, because when we first came up with this idea, we're like, is Tiger, if he's on the senior tour, still playing or not? By the way, Tiger turns 50 in this month, just to make you guys all feel old. So he'll be eligible next year for the first time. I wonder if he'll be on the ballot. It's gonna have to get through committee, but I guess he'll probably be. So anyway, without further ado, we're going to start going through this. Like I said, we have the top 5 coaches, then followed by the top 5 contributors, followed by the top 25 athletes from 5th place to 1st for the first group, and then 25th to 1st for the second group. So let me just share my screen. Share. Everybody see that? Fantastic. All right. So without further ado, United States Athletics Hall of Fame class of 2025.
Okay, we're going to start this journey from a dairy farm in Clarksville, Tennessee. With a career coaching record of 1,098 and 208, Pat Summitt led the Lady Vols to 16 SEC tournament wins, 18 Final Four appearances, 8 NCAA titles. A 5-time Coach of the Year. She was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame way back in 2000 and was still dominating for years after. We are very proud and very happy. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Evan, this is our first female coach.
First female coach, correct.
And who better than Pat Summitt? We are very proud to induct her as part of the class of 2025.
All right, my turn. So our 4th highest vote getter for coaches. 3rd year on the ballot, a 1997 inductee into the College Football Hall of Fame. One of the most important coaches probably in the history of college football. He won 17 SWAC titles and 9 national Black College National Championships in his 55 years as coach at Grambling. Won 70.7% of his games and retired. When he retired, He was the all-time leader in wins for coaches in NCAA history. He's since fallen to third, one behind Joe Pa. But Eddie Robinson is a member of the class of 2025 for United States Athletics Hall of Fame.
We are staying on the gridiron for our next selection. Beginning his head coaching career at William & Mary, this inductee later joined NC State, where he won 2 Peach Bowls. He followed that with a trip to Arkansas, winning an Orange Bowl, but he is best known in football for his work at Notre Dame, where he won the national championship in 1988. Following retirement, he brought South Carolina pretty much from the dead. He retired with a record of 249, 132, and 7, and the United States Athletic Hall of Fame is very proud to induct Lou Holtz as part of the class of 2025.
Okay. Next up, hockey as players have not done very well, but hockey coaches have done pretty decently. And next up, our number 2 vote getter is the only coach ever to win both the Stanley Cup and the NCAA Final Four, or the NCAA Championship, which he did 3 times with Wisconsin Badgers, and led the 1991 Pittsburgh Penguins to a title. Unfortunately, he passed away of brain cancer shortly thereafter. They did repeat in 1992. Scotty Bowman, who was the interim coach at that time, coming down from the front office, came and said that this championship was for Bob Johnson. So Badger Bob is a member of the class of 2025.
And the gentleman who received the highest votes of all the coaches this year won a Super Bowl as a player with the Pittsburgh Steelers in Super Bowl 13. Working his way through the ranks, mostly on the defensive side of the ball, he landed a head coaching job in Tampa, where he took a team that was not doing very well and altered their defense completely. While he was lured away by the Indianapolis Colts in 2002, the Buccaneers were so good and so dominant with the Tampa 2 defense that Dungy created that he got a lot of the credit for that win. He did get his own Super Bowl championship later with the Indianapolis Colts, and while Peyton Manning was the star of the offense, it was Tony Dungy that made the defense and was the architect of both of those titles. He also made history as the first Black head coach to win a Super Bowl and the first coach, period, to beat all 32 teams. You know him as an analyst in Sunday Night Football, but today you know him as a member of the United States Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2025.
So there you go. There are 5 coaches: Pat Summitt, Eddie Robinson, Lou Holtz, Bob Johnson, and Tony Dungy were our top 5 vote getters for a class of 2025. So, all right.
Can I say something about Eddie Robinson?
Absolutely, Upton, please.
And I know I'm pretty familiar with all these coaches. Eddie Robinson, I first met in 1963 when I was a scout for the Baltimore Colts. And what he has done through the years, how many players he has sent to professional football, particularly in a time, and many times when I visited that campus, there were police outside. I mean, I can't tell you how tough it was for an African-American coach to coach in the South at that time. But Eddie Robinson was incredible as a coach. As a man, I've never met better than this guy. And basically, he changed the game in many ways. Every scouting combine, every team, the first thing that they would do was make sure that they went to Grambling. So I am so happy for Eddie Robinson. He was an incredible man and a great coach.
Yeah, and the one thing I did leave out, because we're trying to make it, concise, is that when he took over as the all-time wins leader, he passed Bear Bryant, which in the South is a challenging thing. He actually, I did read a couple of places, he expected to get more hate than he did with it. But just he was a giant. I grew up in Massachusetts, as I said. Was still a giant of a figure to me, Eddie Robinson. So I'm very, very excited that he got it as well.
By the way, just quickly, Eddie Kotel, who belongs in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and shame on the people that don't recognize him. He was the inventor of the scouting, the combines in the NFL. The first trip he made every year, driving from Los Angeles to Louisiana, was Eddie Robinson. And that's how many of the NFL players early on became NFL players from Grambling. Great story, great person.
Thank you, Upton. Okay, so we're going to move on to the contributors. So we have 5 here, just so you guys know who's already in. I'm not going to do this to the athletes because there are too many, but just so you guys, the contributors. Contributors are interesting because sometimes it's people who invented the sport. Sometimes it's the guy who invented the Zamboni. It's all comes down to how people feel, as I said. So far in the contributors, we have James Naismith, Al Davis, Lamar Hunt, Branch Rickey, Pete Rozelle, David Stern, Frank Zamboni, Dana White, Ron Wolf, Dr. James Andrews, and Bill France Jr. Just so you guys coming in, those 11 are already in. We have 11 because in our first year, we had ties for 5th place, both for coaches and for contributors. We haven't had a tie since, but that just happened to be where we were. So, Kirk, you can kick us off on the contributors here.
Yeah, and it's going to be very, very interesting here because I'm glad, Evan, that you sort of brought up who was in terms of commissioners in pro football. Pete Rozelle is in. We now have a second one. I'm not going to do the bio for this person because I think there's someone here who can do the bio much better. Finishing at 5th place and a part of our new class of the United States Athletic Hall of Fame 2025. It's Bert Bell.
Well, I can tell you this. This is an interesting story about Bert Bell and Pete Rozelle. I was in my father's office when Pete Rozelle called my father. He was appointed the general manager of the Rams, and he called my father and he said, "I'm going to quit." He said, "I can't stand it. All the owners, there were 4 owners, are fighting among themselves." And he said, "Bert, I can't do it anymore." And my father said to him, "Don't quit." He said, "I'm appointing you the head of the whole operation. I'm going to call all 4 of those goddamn owners and tell them that you are the guy that is going to be running it." If Rozelle had quit, of course, we'd never be talking about him today. Quickly, as far as my father was concerned, Arthur Daly of the New York Times wrote, Pro Football Hall of Fame, Arthur Daly wrote, that if Bert Bell did nothing else in his lifetime as commissioner of the NFL, as owner of the Eagles and the Steelers, if he did nothing else, the invention of the pro football draft by my father saved the NFL, saved the teams that were going broke. There were 25 teams that actually were going to go out of business or had gone already out of business. And with that one brilliant stroke, the NFL survived. He also invented sudden death, the 2-minute drill, everything that you can see today. He signed the first national television contract in the 50s with the Dumont Network. Everything that you see today is still there, including what he did is that he invented the player pension plan, which is now named after Bert Bell and Pete Rozelle. But his whole life was looking at football and really studying the game and doing everything he could to make sure it remained. And look at it today. Amazing, and thank you all for voting him in.
That this was complete happenstance, Upton. We knew you had possible coming on. We didn't know this official thing until yesterday. And then it was great. He got in comfortably. There's a pretty big gap between 5th and 6th.
Well, what really interests me is many people have forgotten him, although ironically, when his statue was unveiled at the University of Pennsylvania, and ironically, for people that don't know, and I don't want to run on and bore you, is that Bert Bell died at Franklin Field, where he was a quarterback that led the University of Pennsylvania to the Rose Bowl. He died in the last 2 minutes watching the 2 teams that he owned and invented, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Pittsburgh Steelers. He dropped dead just as Tommy McDonald of the Eagles was crossing the goal line. That's how he went out, with his boots on. And Commissioner Roger Goodell did one of the great tributes I've ever heard a commissioner give to Bert Bell on the night that he was inducted, and his statue was unveiled a year ago. So thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't want to bore you.
No, thank you, Upton. Appreciate it. Okay, I have to follow it up with number 4 here. We have our first Negro League representative, the first president of the Negro National League back in 1920. He's the one who got the 6 teams in the Midwest together. He was the owner and manager of the Chicago American Giants. Was elected in the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1981 as the first pioneer/executive out of the Negro League to be so honored. Often called the father of black baseball. Andrew Rube Foster. It finished 4th in our group. By the way, he got named Rube because he pitched 12 games in the Negro Leagues, one of which was against a major league team, and he struck out. It was not Rube Marquardt. I can't remember the Rube it was, but a very famous Rube in 1912. Because he was so good, they started calling him Rube, and it stuck. But Rube Foster, first person from the Negro Leagues in the United States Athletics Hall of Fame.
Okay, born a stone's throw away from my hometown in Hamilton, Ontario, this gentleman would later move to the United States, taking the fortune that he amassed in Canada, and he bought into the Washington Redskins, where he later became the principal owner. Under him, the Redskins won 3 Super Bowls, and he also would own the Los Angeles Lakers, where he won a championship there. The man, of course, is Jack Kent Cooke, who also, for hockey purposes, was a very strong owner when the NHL expanded to 12 teams from 6, and boy, did they need a strong owner like Jack Kent Cooke. We are very, a little surprised, actually, but we're very happy and proud to induct Jack Kent Cooke into the United States Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2025.
What a great character. God, he was something.
Well, he built the Forum too. The Forum's still there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And Hollywood Park, all that. He responsible for revitalizing and creating the idea of like stadiums into a bigger thing than just a stadium.
Actually, he had to sell the Redskins, at the Redskins, the name at the time. He had to sell them because he was in the middle of a big divorce. I know people wanted to put together a franchise or put together an ownership to buy it from him, and he said the only reason that he was forced to sell was because he had to satisfy the estate of his wife or his ex-wife. And but I can tell you, an incredible character and a very brilliant guy.
Well, Upton, I think we have a little bit more to say again for you in the next one, the number 2 vote getter, and I think the most surprising person in the contributor list to me, based on who is here. He's a member of the NFL's 1940s All-Decade team. As a player, he won 3 Pro Bowls and a 2-time NFL champion. After his playing career, he became a scout for the Washington Redskins and Dallas Cowboys, was responsible for or instrumental in drafting Roger Staubach, despite the fact that Staubach had the 4-year commitment to the Navy. He was also responsible for really fashioning both Super Bowl and the NFL draft to what we know them as today. Also, I believe, Upton, you may have hired him to be the general manager of the New England Patriots. He also stuck with the Patriots through. He was still scouting. I think he was the head of scouting in the early 2000s during the championship years there for the Patriots. Member of our class 2025, Francis Joseph, better known as Bucko Kilroy.
The Philadelphia Inquirer just did a story on him because he was finally inducted into the Philadelphia Eagles Hall of Fame. And I can tell you this, I knew him as a player. I knew him as a coach. I knew him as one of the greatest characters I've ever been around. And I will tell you how he got hired. I had talked to 2 Hall of Famers, now Hall of Famers, Bobby Beathard and Ron Wolf, about being my personnel director when I got the job with the Patriots. So one day I'm sitting there, this is in the springtime, and the woman who was my assistant came in and she said, there's a guy by the name of Bucko Kilroy calling you collect from a phone booth. And I said, what the hell is going on here? And what happened was he didn't want Tex Schramm to know that he was applying for the job. And I never interviewed him because I thought, until I got the phone call, that he was solid in Dallas and he wanted to stay there the rest of his life. But with that phone call, I said, all right, I will call Tex and get permission. I was surprised Tech said, yeah, let him go if he wants to be the head guy. He came here and he had one of the great drafts, including John Hanna. This is 1973-74. And if you look at the Patriots all the way through Bill Parcells, both he and Bill Belichick will tell you the players that they had in the early years when Brady came in were all due to Bucko Kilroy, an incredible scout, an incredible person. And I once said to him, Bucko, you remind me of a guy from the CIA. He was always whispering out of the side of his mouth, don't tell anybody this and that. Incredible character. Thank God you put him in, because in my opinion, and I know Ken Crippen was going to be on with you tonight, who was his presenter, all these names that are now out there for the NFL Hall of Fame, and they're down to 3-5 now, Bucko Kilroy belongs in that class. And it's unfortunate that he isn't, because he definitely belongs in the NFL Hall of Fame. Thank you for putting him in.
Oh, thanks to the voters. So
well, that's what I'm saying. The voters,
yeah.
you are the voters.
Yeah. So
I have to follow that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Last one.
All right. Well, sometimes you just know what your audience likes. And in our case, it's statistics. Stats, analytics, they're very important. And obviously, the voters of the United States Athletic Hall of Fame clearly agree. Seymour Siwoff did not create the Elias Sports Bureau. It began in 1913, but he had a vision when he purchased it in 1952 that it could be so much more. And all of us who do any type of writing about sports, and I think, or even just research, it affects so much more than what we realize from day to day. And he is the godfather of that. He is the godfather of modern stats, not just for the National Football League, of which he was nominated for multiple times, I believe, in the contributor category.
Yes, he was.
But he's also done a lot. He's also instrumental in everything with Major League Baseball, National Basketball Association, and Major League Soccer. Also, a lot of media sources too depend on a lot of the work that Siwoff sort of put forth together. And we are very excited to induct Seymour Siwoff as part of the United States Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2025.
Okay, so those are our contributors, the top 5 that we had. So Bert Bell, Rube Foster, Jack Kent Cook, Bucko Kilroy, and Seymour Siwoff. All right, so that brings us to the biggest group. So we have 25. We're going to do, just by the way, going forward, we're going to do 25 again next year. After that, we'll have 100 names for athletes. We'll figure out exactly what we're doing. But this is our third group of 25. So coming into the hall this time going through. So I'm going to start with the athletes, and I'm going to start this time. So going 25-1, finishing in 25th place, known as the Manasseh Mauler, this boxer was rated the greatest fighter of the first 50 years of the 20th century by the AP. That was done in 1950, by the way. He'd win the world heavyweight fight by defeating Jess Willard, known as the Potawatomi Giant, in 1919, even though Willard was 5.5 inches and 60 pounds heavier than he was. One of the hardest punchers ever, one of the greatest boxers ever, one of the biggest characters in boxing ever, Jack Dempsey, is a member of the class of 2025.
Evan and I joked once that if we could go in a time machine and see a picture from the last half of the 1960s, this was the guy we picked. 2-time Cy Young Award winner, 1968 MVP of the National League. Nobody intimidated more people on the mound than Bob Gibson. Leading the Cardinals to 2 World Series championships, Bob Gibson fanned 3,508 batters and had a lifetime ERA of 2.17. A member of the MLB All-Century team, we are proud here at the United States Athletic Hall of Fame to induct Bob Gibson as part of the class of 2025.
Yeah, as I've said on this many times, Kirk, if I could pick one player from baseball history to start my team around, Bob Gibson's the guy. Give me that attitude and that ability, and we'll build a team around that. So,
I just want to say that and talking to some of the Red Sox players about Gibson going all the way back to that time, they said that more players feared Gibson than anybody. That and as you know, or maybe you don't know, but that they lowered the mound because of Gibson.
Yeah.
And that's what we have today. But every player that I ever talked to said Gibson and Koufax, two of the greatest, but Gibson was the guy they feared the most.
Yeah. Okay, coming in number 23. Nicknamed the Kansas Comet. Few running backs in NFL history were as fast or as difficult to take down. A 5-time first-team All-Pro, a 4-time Pro Bowler, a 2-time rushing leader, 1-time scoring leader, and member of the NFL's 60s All-Decade team, as well as the 50th, 75th, and 100th all-time team. He made quite the impact despite playing only 68 games in his NFL career over the course of 7 seasons. Really 5, but he played 2 games in year 6 and 2 years in year 7 because he got injured. But the youngest man ever elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame at just the age of 34, Gale Sayers, is a member of the class of 2025.
Quick story again. Gale Sayers, in his first game against the Colts, I was on the field for the game. And Gale Sayers, I always claim his feet never touched the ground. He was maybe one of the greatest that I've ever seen, he and Jim Brown. But ironically, he took a handoff and started one way, saw that he was kind of fenced in, and reversed it the other way and went for like 80 yards for a touchdown. I said, my God, I've never seen anybody like that. He was absolutely incredible.
And I want to have one note on Gale Sayers. I think stories like his feet never touched the ground will explain why Gale Sayers was named to the 50th anniversary team after only 4 seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And can I just add something too? It's almost like a question and a rhetorical. It's amazing with how medical advances have come to the current day for like knee injuries and things like that.
Yeah.
Like I just wonder with someone like Upton, someone like Gale Sayers, can you imagine if the technology that's here now was available then? I mean, the career he would have had, and we'll never know. But like that's one of those players. Gosh.
Well, you know another thing, and Jack will swear to this, is that in today's game, Gale Sayers would be incredible. In those days, they were up on the line of scrimmage, and I mean, they would kick you in the head. I mean, the game was totally different in the 50s and 60s when he played. And this guy, scored 6 touchdowns in one game, including returning a kickoff for a touchdown. And he ran inside as well as outside in a day when they get you down, they'd stomp you in the face, they would do everything. But our players, the Colt players, said to me, they said there were 2 people that they thought were the greatest that they had seen, Jim Brown and Gale Sayers. Nobody liked this guy. He really was incredible.
All right, number 22 for you, Kirk.
Okay. Of all the people who are part of this class, I don't think anyone had a harder path to get here. Fighting professionally for the first time in 1897, Jack Johnson finally got a title shot in 1908, which he won. I'm sure you can imagine in 1908, there was a lot of people in the United States that were not very happy seeing an African-American dominate one of the biggest sports at the time. He was hated. He was hated by those people, and hated even more when he wed a white woman. He held that title until 1914, when someone you mentioned earlier, Jess Willard, beat him for it. Johnson maintained that he took a dive. Whether that is the case or not, what is definitely not for dispute is that he never got a chance to reclaim that championship, which he obviously should have. Thankfully, though, for us and our purposes, he has not been a victim of history. He is very widely remembered, portrayed by James Earl Jones, I believe, in a film in 1970. 1970, yes. That's correct. And we are very happy to induct Jack Johnson to the United States Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2025.
Yeah, I'll just say down here in Southeast Texas, he's the Galveston guy, and he's well known and frequently ends up in the articles and papers down here about what he did and what he represented in terms of the racial injustices that he faced. So great job by the voters recognizing that.
All right, going to athlete number 21. We had Dana White from the UFC in already. Now we have our first UFC fighter. Former Greco-Roman wrestler turned MMA legend. He's the first UFC fighter to win UFC championships in 2 separate divisions. In fact, he won 6 titles, 3 in the light heavyweight and 3 times as a heavyweight. And one of 2 fighters to have won a fight in their 40s in the UFC on the main card. He is also the 4th ever inductee into the UFC Hall of Fame. Randy Couture is a member of the class of 2025.
What a perfect segue to go into the person who finished 20th. The United States Athletic Hall of Fame, it is for all sports in the U.S., and we love it when we have a brand new representative. We do not have an administrator or a coach yet for this sport, but we do have its first athlete. From the heartland of the U.S., and that's where you would expect an athlete of this ilk to be from, amateur wrestling has now brought us Dan Gable. Representing Iowa State, he had a career record of 117-1. Won 2 national championships for the Cyclones, was a 3-time All-American, and at Munich, 1972, he won Olympic gold.
Remember that?
The United States Athletic Hall of Fame is very proud to induct Dan Gable as part of the class of 2025.
And if I remember correctly, Gable's only loss, I believe, was his very last one he did at the NCAA finals.
Yes. Yeah, where he finished silver in 70.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
So
he could be inducted for his coaching alone.
Yes.
Later. So
yeah,
that'll come down the road.
Yeah, that's something I have actually thought about, Greg. Right now, we're only doing, if you're in one, we're not putting in the other, but that may change coming forward just because we have so many names at the moment. So, okay. Next up, so we had our group, you guys, a lot of the people on this call helped us decide what new people were on the ballot last year. So 2 of those people who we put on the ballot for the first time have made it into the hall, and they're my next 2 ones I do, this one and the one after. But this athlete, it's his first time on the ballot on his 3rd year of eligibility. He was a 3-time National League MVP, a 12-time All-Star, and a 10-time Gold Glover, making him perhaps the greatest third baseman in baseball history. A first ballot baseball Hall of Famer, getting well over 95% of the vote. He'd spent his entire 18-year career in Philadelphia with the Phillies, leading them to their first World Series title in 1980 and winning the World Series MVP in the process. We welcome Michael Jack Schmidt into the United States Athletics Hall of Fame class of 2025.
And we're not going to have to move too far for athlete 18. We're staying in the same state. We're staying in the same sport. We're just traveling from third base to shortstop. Far more than the face of the most valuable baseball card ever. Honus Wagner is considered not just one of the best shortstops that ever lived, but one of the best hitters. He's named to the all-time century team, the all-MLB team. He won the World Series with the Pirates, won 8 batting titles, and when the Baseball Hall of Fame finally did their first ever Hall of Fame class, he was a member of that group. We are very proud to induct Honus Wagner into the United States Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2025.
Yeah. Okay. Now I have the other person who got in, who was in our ballot this summer. This is actually a first for our hall because it's the first time someone got on their first ballot in their first technical year of eligibility, meaning this is the youngest person we've ever inducted into the Hall of Fame. As I said, Tiger Woods is on the ballot next year. I'm presuming that he's going to break that record. But this is a younger half of one of the greatest racing father-son duos in NASCAR history. He's a 15-time winner of NASCAR's most popular driver award, a 2-time Daytona 500 winner, and one of NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers, having won 26 career races, and who is inducted to NASCAR's Hall of Fame back in 2021. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is a member of the class of 2025. And that little asterisk there means that it's his first year of eligibility and first time that he was able to get in here. So congratulations to the Earnhardt family on this one.
Okay, so with this one, I'm going to get a little bit personal. Yes, I started the site in 2009, but I didn't think I could do anything with it until maybe 2 years later. And the person who got in is pretty much the reason why we're all here and why I kept doing it. I saw this man signing autographs in Las Vegas, and I went up to his people and said, "Can I interview him for my blog, notinhalloffame.com?" And he said yes. And he allowed me to sit with him for 2 hours. And it meant a lot to me. When I saw him again a few years later, he forgot who I was, but it was still amazing to me.
Yeah, and for proof, just by the way, here is the meeting.
Yes, there I am. And as I showed this to Dave, who's here on the chat, he said, "That's not quite the most manly grip you've got there, Kirk." I didn't. He's not, and Dave's not wrong. What can I say? But it was still a very big deal to me, and I wish he would have been alive to sort of see this. And as Evan said before, he was so close. And he definitely belongs here. He's the hit king. I don't see that record ever being broken. He won 3 World Series, 2 with Cincinnati, 1 with Philadelphia, former MVP, 17 All-Stars, an all-century player. I am very thrilled that we have inducted to the United States Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2025, Pete Rose.
He's a WWE Hall of Famer.
Yes, he is.
For those who don't know, but I'll tell you guys here. The reason why I play baseball is because of this guy. There was something to be said about somebody who not only had the skill set, but the things that you added to. You said he was not the fastest guy. He didn't have the most power. He probably didn't have the fastest bat. But the intangibles and the things that you could not measure by this guy, how he hustled. I understand this complicated issue after he got done actually playing. But, somebody got all those 4,000 hits, whatever the number is. But one of the reasons why in my neighborhood we played baseball, even though we were in the Dominican Republic growing up, we used to compete even to take the garbage out because we wanted to do it as fast and we wanted to hustle as Pete Rose actually taught us to hustle.
Have you seen the HBO special on him?
Yes, sir.
Pretty interesting. What a complex guy. Too bad. I mean, yes, I agree. He's one of the greatest all-around baseball players I've ever seen, and a lot of it was Charlie Hustle and what he did. But it's just a shame the other part tore the whole thing down. I'm glad he's in this Hall of Fame, and we'll see what happens to the other one. I don't hold out much hope for it. We'll see.
Yeah, one of the things that I looked at that whole situation is the crime that Major League Baseball committed against this guy. As far as there were certain things that when they needed him to make their money, when the all-century routine happened, Visa would not sponsor the event unless he was participating. The thing that bothered me the most is actually when his son made his Major League debut. They would not allow him to go into the stadium. But shortly after, when he was in the all-century team, they allowed him to do that. So, I thought it was a little bit tasteless and classless, but we understand the complications of the things that he did. But at the end of the day, a lot of people in the world play baseball because of Pete Rose.
I agree.
And we all know that the sports leagues are never get involved with gambling. Next one, I have a slight personal connection to this person in that my wife used to work with, I believe I can't remember his granddaughter or great niece. But anyway, next up is the original Mr. Basketball. He was an 8-time first-team player in the NBL or BAA or NBA, as was in the beginning of this as it started, leading the Minneapolis Lakers to 5 championships.
Oh.
The original big man, the 6'10 center, had an ambidextrous hook shot that helped him lead the league in scoring and retire as the NBA's all-time scoring leader. By the way, they had the best player of the first century of basketball, and the AP voted for George Mikan for that position. He was 25 at the time that they made that decision. George Mikan is very proud to have him as a member of the class of 2025 United States Athletics Hall of Fame.
I actually saw him play, and as ironically as it turns out, his one of the players who was a forward next to him was a guy by the name of Jim Pollard, who played on those great Laker teams. Jim Pollard ended up being my basketball coach at LaSalle College, so it was pretty interesting. But he was just an extraordinary player during his time.
I'll say, Evan, one thing on George Mikan, and this is a challenge with Basketball Reference and with the NBA because they only honor the BAA history, and you mentioned this other league, the NBL, which is where Mikan started. So if you look at Basketball Reference, he was a 5-time champ, which is good enough. He actually was the best player on 7 champions in 8 seasons. Across 2 leagues, and a bit of sad note for Chicago, although it obviously worked out for us eventually with the Bulls. But the Chicago American Gears won the championship in 1947, and their owner decided that he was going to start a new league with the Gears, and that league folded, which led to a dispersal draft, which led to Mikan going to the Lakers. Otherwise, the American Gears might have stayed in Chicago, and George Mikan might have kicked off professional basketball in Chicago years before the Bulls.
Great story, Jack. Great story.
All right, Kirk, back to you, my friend.
Okay. When this gentleman didn't get in the first year, I was a little disappointed. When he didn't get in the second year, I was very disappointed. I'm no longer disappointed. In football, you can debate who the greatest person at every position is. I don't think there's a debate at wide receiver. It's Jerry Rice. From Mississippi Valley State, Rice anchored the San Francisco 49ers to 3 Super Bowls, 10-time first-team All-Pro, named to the 80s, 90s, All-Decade Team, 75th and 100th Anniversary Team. He holds the 3 biggest records you need as a wide receiver in receptions, touchdowns, and yards, and no one's touching that despite how the game has changed. The United States Athletic Hall of Fame is very, very proud to induct Jerry Rice into the class of 2025.
Yeah, this was absolutely overdue for us. As I said, we don't choose the classes, the public does, but it's very, very excited Rice is here. All right, we've reached midway point. And this is the one, Pete Rose was for Kirk. This one is for me. So I've told the story many, many times. My father was the kicker on the football team and the catcher on the baseball team for the Holy Cross Crusaders from 1947 to 1950. So up to my dad, who would be 97 this year. He had me later in life. One of the people who lived in the dorms with him, who he played a lot in ping pong, is actually the second oldest living Hall of Famer from any of the 4 major sports. The oldest player, the oldest living Hall of Famer right now is Marv Levy, who just turned 100. Second, who turned 97 this year, is a 13-time All-Star and the prototype for the modern NBA point guard. A member of the 1947 Holy Cross NCAA tournament winning team. You heard that right. Holy Cross won a national championship. He's the 8-time NBA assist leader, a 10-time NBA first team and 2-time NBA second team player, would win the MVP in 1957 and lead the Boston Celtics to the first 6 of their record 18 titles. The prototype for basically all point guards in basketball. Very, very excited that Bob Cousy joins the class of 2025.
You know, it's funny, Dan Shaughnessy, one of our top writers here, columnist, writes about the Coos, every couple of months. And I did see him play, and I will tell you this, I started dribbling behind my back in high school because I saw Cousy do it. And every kid growing up during the 50s, late 40s and the 50s, watching Cousy, who really did change the game. The behind the back pass, dribbling between the legs, the great, he was the incredible passer that really helped make Bill Russell what he was. And it's ironic because he has written a book that came out just a couple of years ago about how he felt that he could have done a better job of helping Bill Russell, overcome all the problems of race in Boston. And it was really terrible the way Russell was treated. But Cousy, classy guy on and off the court, but he's the guy that really got people interested in pro basketball.
Yeah. In my one other story quickly about Cousy. So my dad has 2 ping pong titles from Holy Cross. We have little trophies of my dad from the freshman and junior year. He said that all 4 years at Holy Cross, he and Cousy were in the finalists of their ping pong tournament. That Cousy won sophomore and senior year. So years ago, I went to a Celtics game and I happened to meet JoJo White. And a long conversation with JoJo. And during that, I asked him, "Hey, JoJo, have you ever played ping pong?" He goes, "I'm incredible at ping pong." I said, "Did you ever play Cousy?" Because he apparently is a heck of a ping pong player. And JoJo said, "No, I never had. But if I did, I'd wipe the floor with him." And I just always love that story of JoJo. But yeah, Bob Cousy, very, very excited. So, all right, Kirk.
Okay, the United States has certainly had its share of champion figure skaters. And whenever you're watching figure skating at the Olympics, there's a reason why the ladies always have the hammer. They always go on last because they are the draw. And we are adding another one to the U.S. The United States Athletic Hall of Fame. From the great state of California, it's Kristi Yamaguchi. Originally a pair skater, winning the U.S. title in 1989 with Rudy Galindo, she was advised to go solo. She bet on herself, and within 3 years, she became the first Asian American to win gold at the Winter Olympics. Not just in figure skating, the first Asian American to win gold at the Olympics when she won that in Albertville. She's also the first Asian American in the United States Athletic Hall of Fame. And we are very proud to induct Kristi Yamaguchi to the class of 2025.
Yeah. Skating has done quite well just by figure skating and speed skating. So it's great to see Yamaguchi here as well, continuing that trend. Okay, I swear this isn't deja vu. But up next is the older half of one of the greatest father-son duos in NASCAR history. This legend is tied with Jimmy Johnson and fellow USA Hall of Fame member Richard Petty for the most titles in NASCAR history with 7. Known as the Intimidator, his signature black number 3 car is an icon of racing today. You'll still see those 3 stickers on the back of cars all over the country if you ever drive across anywhere. And even though we're 24 years after his death of the 2001 Daytona 500, Dale Earnhardt is a member of the class of 2025 of the United States Athletics Hall of Fame. So we have our first father and son duo, and they get in together. So,
okay. For the person who came in at number 10, I'd like to think that if he was still alive, he would accept this award in third person. He is the best leadoff hitter that ever existed. He is the best base stealer that ever existed. A former MVP, won 2 World Series, 10-time All-Star, 3 Silver Sluggers, 1,406 stolen bases. That record, despite the changes and stolen bases this year or the last year, that's not going anywhere. No one's touching it. The United States Athletic Hall of Fame, we are very happy to induct Rickey Henderson into the class of 2025.
People loved him here. It was at the end of his career when he came here to the Red Sox. People loved him here. I mean, he was warm. He was outgoing. He was still stealing his bases. He would act up with the fans at Fenway Park. I can't say anything higher than this guy. I mean, he was a great player, but people loved him here. And in Boston, they can hate you pretty quickly, but not this guy.
Yeah, the other thing about Rickey when I was doing all this stuff, he was actually the top running back in the state of California. He grew up in Oakland, wanted to play for the Raiders, and his mother told him, because he got drafted by both the Raiders and the A's, his mother told him, "You're going to have a longer career if you play baseball. Go play baseball." And it worked out pretty well, I would say. So, okay, so we're coming up to number 9, sticking with baseball. One of the sweetest swings in Major League history. This 13-time All-Star would go on to win the 1997 AL MVP, 7 Silver Sluggers, and 10 Gold Gloves as an outfielder for the Mariners, Reds, and White Sox. He also won the 1999 Home Run Derby at Fenway Park, where I was on Lansdowne Street with all the balls coming over the Green Monster. We didn't have the monster seats at that point. One of the coolest experiences I've ever had. Known as a kid, he had the opportunity to play with his father on the 1990 and 91 Mariners, continuing the father-son theme we've had here, making him the first father and son to play on the same team at the same time in baseball history. He's one of the most popular players ever, should have been a unanimous inductee into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Ken Griffey Jr. is a member of the class of 2025.
Okay, from baseball, we're going back to football, and we're going to the Heisman House. The Heisman winner from 1988 from Oklahoma State, Barry Sanders, played his entire career with the Detroit Lions. The running back won an MVP, 2 Offensive Player of the Year awards, 4 rushing titles, 6 first-team All-Pros, and 10 Pro Bowls. And remember, he did that all on a mediocre to average at best Lions team. A first ballot inductee to the Pro Football Hall of Fame and member of the 100th anniversary team, the United States Athletic Hall of Fame is very, very happy. We're inducting Barry Sanders into the class of 2025.
You know, Sanders and Gale Sayers are in a class by themselves, and particularly Sanders. Sayers played with some better Bears teams. Sanders played with lousy teams, but boy, I mean, just to watch him go back and forth across the field was really amazing. I have him in my top 20 backs of all time. Incredible player.
Kirk, I got a quick story.
Yeah.
I got a buddy of mine that played Division I football at Wake Forest, and he played with a gentleman that ended up with the Buccaneers. So I was coaching college baseball. My friend was coaching football, and he goes down and makes a trip to Tampa. And he comes back, and I'm like, brother, what'd you see? Like, what? He goes, Jack, my buddy got me sideline passes, so I was standing at ground level sideline. I saw Barry Sanders on grass live. He goes, I've never seen a human being hit the line full tilt speed, stop and turn and go the other direction. He goes, until you see it, and this was on grass in Tampa. He goes, brother, until you see it, and I played Division I football, I know what I'm looking at. Until you see it live, you can't believe what he is. And I was like, okay. He said it was the most incredible running back, just from the speed, the stop, the tilt, the turn, everything he could do on grass. Again, you know, he played most of his career on artificial turf, but he said just to see him play live was the greatest thing he ever saw.
Well, you know, it's funny. Although Sayers had a longer stride when he ran, both Barry Sanders and Sayers were the same type in that they would hit the line at full speed, and you would think that you would be able to tackle them, and they give you the leg, and then they'd be gone. They were 2 incredible runners. Sanders not quite as tall as Sayers, but kind of cut out of the same cloth. Both amazing backs.
Yeah, let me add, Barry, you want to talk about greatness and greatness going against greatness? The great Rod Woodson tore his ACL in the 1995 opener trying to tackle Barry Sanders. In fact, Woodson came back and played in that year's Super Bowl, but that's how, like, you know, Barry's made people look really silly, like they were tackle dummies.
And if he doesn't walk away when he does in his career, what was his number? What would those numbers have been in the end? It's kind of mind-boggling to think, because he was a fairly young man when he retired, when he walked away.
Well, he walked away because the Lions stunk.
Sure,
and,
right.
Trying to be politically correct when he said mediocre, but yes.
Yeah,
it was a bad place. Yeah.
I mean, again, there was a curse about the Lions. I mean, I first watched them in the first Thanksgiving game in 1951, and they had Doak Walker, they had Bobby Lane, they had great teams then, and all of a sudden they've hit like 30 or 40 years, and they are a disaster.
Well, that's the Bobby Lane curse, right? When Bobby Lane left, he said, "You guys will never win again." Wasn't that the story that Bobby Lane said when he got kind of kicked out of Detroit? He goes, "You'll never win again," and they haven't.
Well, it all depends on whether he's drunk or sober.
That's right. Well, yeah. He was right though. He was right. They didn't have
Yeah,
one
no,
sense.
there's no question that there is a curse there.
Yeah.
But look at the players that have come through there and played there. I mean, Megatron is one of the great receivers I've ever seen, and he never won anything.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's also one of the most famous number 20s because Lem Barney wore it, Billy Sims wore it, and then Barry Sanders wore it. They had a run on 20s there for quite some time.
Yeah. Okay, we get to the top 7 here. Believe it or not, we only have one track and field athlete on our list. But named after the former First Lady of the United States, or the woman who was First Lady when she was born, the next inductee may be America's First Lady of Track and Field. Gold medalist on the heptathlon in both the Olympics and the World Championships, twice for both of those. She'd add another Olympic gold and 2 World Championship golds in the long jump as well as I believe a silver in the heptathlon, a silver in the long jump, and a bronze in the long jump in the Olympics as well. She was voted by Sports Illustrated for women as the greatest female athlete of the 20th century. She actually said that she was inspired to become an athlete because of Babe Dietrichson-Zacharias, who was a member of our inaugural class of the United States Athletics Hall of Fame. Dietrichson-Zacharias, by the way, finished second in that article to her for the greatest athlete of the 20th century. We're very, very excited to see Jackie Joyner-Kersee joining the class of 2025 United States Athletics Hall of Fame.
Can I ask about, is Wilma Rudolph in?
She is not as of yet.
Wow, I ran track and field, and I knew a lot of the people going all the way back. But I can tell you, get her on the list. If you think Jackie Joyner-Kersee is great, Wilma Rudolph was one of the all-time greats, and I hope someday that she makes it into this Hall of Fame.
She's been on the ballot all 3 years. She just hasn't made it up and over the hump as of yet.
Well, I think it's because the fans didn't see her. In that 60 Olympics, she was Jim Thorpe before Jim Thorpe. That's how good she was.
Yeah. So
moving on.
Good, Kirk.
Okay. Evan and I, we always say we're never going to talk politics, but politics is entering the chat with the Minister of Defense. A unanimous All-American at Tennessee, Reggie White began his career with the Memphis Showboats, but he became nationally known and with the Philadelphia Eagles, where he quickly won his first of what would be 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards in 1987. But his biggest impact was in Green Bay. And as much as Green Bay is a destination for a lot of players now, for a long time, it wasn't. That changed when Reggie signed there in 1993. Packers built a team around him that won a Super Bowl, and he won his second Defensive Player of the Year 11 years after he won his first. We are retiring with 198 sacks. White, like Rice, is a member of the 80s, 90s All-Decade Team, 75th and 100th Anniversary Team. Tragically, he died 2 years before he entered the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and he's now posthumously inducted into the United States Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2025.
Our first defensive player.
Right, which is also a very interesting thing, too. Offense seems to be offense is doing very well. Football, for those who aren't aware, in our first group or first class, we thought we'd probably get maybe 5. We only got 2. Jim Brown and Joe Montana.
And Montana was the 25th person.
Right, yeah. So is it a bit of a surprise that Reggie White's the first defensive player? A little bit, but he definitely belongs here, and we're very happy to have him.
Yeah,
I think that as I'll just say as someone who's been voting, but I'm not. I know quite a bit more than the average bear, but as everyone here does. But even still, there are names that I've never seen or that I know but don't know that well. But you mentioned earlier about how skating is doing well. I think sometimes you see on these ballots 10-time champ, 15-time champ, 3. Like some of these numbers get so much bigger in terms of championships and achievements compared to football, where also there are just more players who we all know. And that's probably part of it. Because I've seen some of these figures in skating, in cycling, in boxing, in skiing, And I'm just like, oh my goodness, the level of accomplishment. But that's why this Hall of Fame is so cool.
I agree with you, Jack, and that's the best thing about this, that there are so many other names out there that hopefully eventually make it. I will say this about Reggie White: he's the best defensive player I've ever seen. He is the combination, whether he played defensive end or defensive tackle. He is the best combination I've ever seen, and I hope, by the way, which is way down the line, that somebody recognizes probably the best pass rusher I've ever seen. That was Deacon Jones of the Rams.
Yeah, I probably want to ask a question to Mr. Bell, because I know that I saw a lot of film of Reggie White. Have you seen anybody his size be as quick as he was?
No. Who's the player that just retired for the Rams that I thought was maybe not in the class of Reggie, but pretty damn good?
Aaron Donald.
Aaron Donald, yeah. But I've never seen a guy that big. I mean, it was really, what was he, 300 pounds? I've never seen a guy that big, that strong, that quick, that you could either put out at end or inside a tackle and never worry about anything. He was that good. I mean, he was really superhuman. It's the best I've ever seen.
Let me say something real quick too, because I'm like literally 5 miles in Williamsburg, Virginia, from where LT grew up, and I think that's always the conversation. Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White, who was the greatest? And I've seen Lawrence Taylor say he believes it was Reggie White. I've literally heard Taylor say that. I've also heard him say he thinks it was himself. But when you hear the guys tell the stories, the one thing about Reggie White, and I've seen so much film of this, is how many 300-pound offensive linemen he physically picked up and threw into the backfield. And there's tons of film. Some of the greatest all-pro tackles, he'd move in on a guard, and he would take these gentlemen and throw them physically back into the quarterback. LT did a little bit of that too, but I do think that's where the conversation begins and ends on defensive players. But I loved what you mentioned, Deacon Jones. I'm old enough to remember him played his last year in Washington. I'm a Redskin. Yeah, but Jones was just Deacon Jones, and he was ahead of this. Well, he could have had 27 sacks according to what they went back on stats, since they didn't keep stats on sacks until 82. We're not sure that Deacon Jones wasn't above 25 in some of those seasons that he played.
I can tell you when he played against the Colts. I looked at a lot of film of Deacon Jones. Of course, they outlawed the head slap. Yes. A lot of our players would come back after the game and be in the locker room, and they go like, Jesus, I've got a headache. All that guy does is slap the shit out of me. I mean, he was by those offensive linemen and some of the best offensive tackles at the time. He was by them like that. He was that good. I will say, by the way, the best linebacker I've ever seen outside of Dick Butkus was LT. LT could have played anywhere. Right. But again, back to what you're saying. But I hope that Deacon Jones comes up one day, because there was nobody like that guy.
Yeah. Mr. Bill, I have one other quick one I want to ask you. Roger Brown, that played on that Detroit defensive line that was outstanding, then basically took Greer's position in the fearsome foursome too in the Rams. He was in 6 Pro Bowls. He's a Virginia guy. I met him, used to have a restaurant in Portsmouth. I've never understood why he's not in the Hall of Fame. You saw Roger Brown play, I'm sure, a lot. What did you think?
Damn good. Here was the problem. He played with great players during that period, including Alex Karras, who just finally got in and probably should have gotten in a lot earlier, except for the gambling thing, he and Horning. But Roger Brown was a guy. I remember talking to Don Shula, who came from Detroit as their coordinator to head coach of the Colts. And I said, well, what about Roger? And he said, the problem with Roger is, he said, he has great talent and he makes some great plays, but then he takes 2 or 3 plays off. And if you watch him, which I did very closely, I'd say, Jesus Christ, nobody can touch this guy. But then you'd look at other times and he would be doing nothing. Now, in that famous Thanksgiving Day game when Bart Starr was sacked, I think 14 or 15 times, Roger Brown destroyed. Yeah. And two or three
1960 was
destroyed
1962, right? It was
Yes.
62, right? Yeah. Okay.
destroyed those people. And I kept saying to myself, and I look at the film, whenever they played the Colts, I look at the film and say, Jesus, this guy just blows people out. But then he does nothing for 2 or 3 plays. That's been the knock on him. I think he's a Hall of Fame player, but that's what people keep repeating about him, and it becomes a chorus. And it's a shame because he is and was a great player.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
So just so you know, Lawrence Taylor was very close to getting in this class, just was outside. Dick Night Train Lane is on this list, but he didn't get in. And Deacon Jones is still in our committee. So he hasn't gotten on the ballot yet. He and Bob Lilly, I think Junior Seau is there. There are a few others who are on that list to come up and in.
Can I tell you also, because I just did an interview with his sons, Dick Night Train Lane. People were scared shitless of him. He was the first big, like 6'4" guy that played, in the 50s. And I can tell you, football players aren't afraid of anything, but they want to stay away from him. He could guard a guy, and those days there was more man coverage. Today, they play a zone, they run people in, they run people out. It's completely different. Those days, if you played corner in those days, and the 2 best I saw was Herb Adderley with the Green Bay Packers and Night Train Lane. People were scared to death of that guy. And he could cover people. He had the long arms. He was 6'4". He would beat the hell out of a player. And I remember hearing him on the sideline. He said, "You know what? I'm going to kick the shit out of you." And he said, "I'm going to keep doing it until you're dead." And that's going back and forth. But I'm telling you, there was nobody like that guy.
Yeah. All right. Well, moving off of football for now. My next 3, by the way, number 5, number 3, and number 1, all play the same sport. And we have not come across that sport yet on our list. Mm-hmm. So next up, winner of the career singles Grand Slam. This pioneering woman would win 39 total Grand Slams, including 12 singles, 16 doubles, and 11 mixed doubles titles. So lifelong advocate for gender equality, she both founded the Women's Tennis Association in 1973, and then later that year would beat Bobby Riggs in the Battle of the Sexes. We're proud to welcome Billie Jean King into the class of 2025 for the United States Athletics Hall of Fame.
She made women's tennis, and she made them pay equally for Wimbledon and these other tournaments. Played the women the same as the men did. She was incredible.
Yeah, so to found the WTA, she basically got 60 of the top women tennis players, locked them in a hotel until they got everything together and got the WTA going. So she's more transformative to sports in America than I think a lot of younger people realize, just because of all the stuff she did, not just on the court, but off the court as well. So
and on the rink, she's responsible for the women's hockey league that now exists, right?
Well, that I did not know.
She was a very big part of it. Mark Walter there in LA is the money behind it, but she's the one that helped organize it all and make that all happen.
Awesome.
I was going to say Battle of the Sexes was at the Houston Astrodome. Just
eighth wonder of the world.
Great night.
All right. Kirk, back to you.
Back to football. Another person just like Jerry Rice. I thought, how's it taking year 3? But he's in now. Just a powerful thing here in sports awards. There's the man of the year in pro football, but it's not just the man of the year. It's the Walter Payton man of the year. Playing his entire career with the Chicago Bears out of Jackson State, Payton won the 1977 MVP, and finally, the Bears were able to build a team around him. Personally, I've gone on record many times saying that the best team I ever saw in pro football was the '85 Bears. And now that's represented in the United States Athletic Hall of Fame. Again, I get to talk about a member of the '80s All-Decade Team, the '90s All-Decade Team, the 75th and the 100th anniversary team. The United States Athletic Hall of Fame is finally happy that we can say that Walter Payton is part of the class of 2025.
Sweetness. By the way, I do agree with you. I've seen every team since the early 40s, including my first training camp at the Chicago Bears in 1946. And that 85 Bears team is the best team in pro football history, as far as I'm concerned. And by the way, if you guys have not seen yet the Super Bowl Shuffle on HBO, watch it. Jack, have you seen that yet? It's incredible, the story.
Jack unfortunately had to dip off a little bit early.
Oh, well, anybody here, if you really want to see how this was all put together, and by the way, the Super Bowl Shuffle is the second most downloaded hits of all time. It was that good.
Unfortunately, though, Upton, it sort of generated a lot of, clones that were not very good.
No, you're right. You're right. Stunk. But this was great.
I don't know why I'm holding back.
I don't know if we got a hit, Upton, but
no, it was a top 40 hit. It was nominated for a Grammy.
It was nominated for a Grammy, but as they showed at the end of it, and it's funny because Sweetness and McMahon were the only two guys. They had just lost to the Dolphins the night before that broke their streak, or they would have been the only unbeaten team in history. And they were flying back, and they had all agreed to do this Super Bowl Shuffle. But Payton and McMahon decided, you know what, we don't want to do it, whatever it is. They finally had to go to where they were working out and get them to do it. And they were able to integrate it into the Super Bowl Shuffle. But the whole story, it's an hour's worth, is hilarious about these guys trying to dance and trying to come up with the lines and everything else. You'll love it if you get a chance. HBO, the Super Bowl Shuffle.
You might like this. I'm actually starting a show in January where it's going to be called When Athletes Sing.
Okay. This is a horrible idea, Kirk.
It's not a horrible idea. It's a fantastic idea. And it's not going to be roasting the Chicago Bears, but I do consider them ground zero for making other people think that they could do what they did.
Fair enough. That'll be interesting.
All right.
Harry Bradshaw would like a word.
Harry Bradshaw will be on this, believe it.
Oh, God. Oh.
All right. We're moving. Oh, sorry.
Is Roseanne Barr an athlete? Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind.
Joe West, the umpire, better be involved in this as well.
Did he sing?
Cowboy Joe? Oh, yeah. He had an album.
Yeah. I didn't know
He
that.
recorded. Yeah, he recorded.
All right, we're into the top three here, and I'm back to tennis again. So the original bad boy of tennis, he took the previously stayed sport and came through like a whirlwind, playing every point like his life depended on it, and with a whole bunch of middle fingers and profanity laced in the middle there. He still holds the open era record for matches both played and won, and total tennis titles with 109, which includes 5 U.S. Opens among his 8 Grand Slam wins. When I was a kid, his run in that final U.S. Open, I think he made all of the semifinals, was must-see television. The entire, even my friends who didn't care about tennis were riveted to Connors making that last run at Flushing Meadows. Flushing Meadows. So very excited to welcome Jimmy Connors to the class of 2025 United States Athletics Hall of Fame.
Okay, so this is my final athlete, number 2. And proudly behind me, even though I am from Canada and I love my hockey, I will always remember, because that was one of my first baptisms watching sports. And I did get to watch that live as a little kid. 1980, the United States winning the gold medal. Of course, it was before that, it was the upset over the Soviet Union. But nevertheless, it is probably, and I still will say to this day, the biggest win in American team sports. I'd love to have a debate with somebody on that, but that was not the biggest story for a lot of people in that Olympics. It was somebody who's done something that has never been equaled since. And just to put it in perspective, I'm thinking of Michael Johnson, who when he won the 200 meters for the United States. How amazing would it be if you could actually do that for the 1500 and then the mile, and then the 5,000 meters. Can't be done. But in speed skating, it was done. Eric Heiden won all 5 disciplines: 500 meters, 1,000 meters, 1,500 meters, 5,000 meters, and 10,000 meters. Nobody's done it since. It is the most incredible performance by any speed skater, period, regardless of nationality. And I'm very happy that he's in, and we are proud to induct Eric Heiden into the class of 2025.
So did you introduce, there was only 2 Olympians, this and JJK, Jackie Joyner-Kersee? Were there any more that I missed?
Oh, Kristi Yamaguchi.
Kristi Yamaguchi.
There we go.
I say it's like I know there's a third one. I can't remember who it is.
Yeah, no, that's good diversity.
Okay, and our last inductee, a complete trailblazer in the sport of tennis. In 1963, he became the first African American to win the national junior tennis title, and that same year became the first African American tennis player to be selected for the U.S. Davis Cup team. The complete opposite of Connors. He was known for his calm demeanor on the court and would win 76 titles, including the 1968 U.S. Open, the 1970 Australian Open, and the 1975 Wimbledon, becoming the first African-American player to win all 3 of those titles on the men's side. By the way, he is still the only African-American player to win all 3 of those titles. Unfortunately, we lost him, complications of HIV from a surgery he had in the early 80s. He passed away far too young. But Arthur Ashe is our top vote getter for the class of 2025 United States Athletics Hall of Fame. And I would like to say we had more votes this year than ever before. We actually are about 3.5 to 4 times more this year than we had last year. So our Ashe technically has the most votes anyone has ever gotten at this point going forward. So that is our class.
I could say something a little bit on that. I grew up 40 miles from Richmond, Virginia. He's from Richmond, Virginia.
Yep.
There are a lot of monuments to him in the city of Richmond. There's an Arthur Ashe Center where it's a lot of money and work that's been done for the youth in the city of Richmond. So as someone who grew up in the Commonwealth, Virginia, I can tell you he was a huge icon. I remember him well as a kid growing up, and we were so proud of him as an athlete, being in the Commonwealth. So yeah, it's really special.
And I remember
he got the recognition.
Yeah, when his statue got added to that monument, what do you call the big monument boulevard?
Monument Avenue. Yeah, where the Confederate statues were. Taken down, right?
They are Arthur Ashe. That was a massive deal when that had happened. So
yeah, he was a big thing in Richmond for sure.
Yeah, so just to repeat who we have, it's in order: Arthur Ashe, Eric Heiden, Jimmy Connors, Walter Payton, Billie Jean King, Reggie White, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, Barry Sanders, Ken Griffey Jr., Ricky Henderson, Dale Earnhardt, Kristi Yamaguchi, Bob Cousy, Jerry Rice, George Mikan, Pete Rose, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Honus Wagner, Mike Schmidt, Dan Gable. There's a 4th Olympian for you, by the way. Randy Couture, Jack Johnson, Gail Sayers, Bob Gibson, and Jack Dempsey. Just by the way, the top 10 people who did not get in last year, so numbers 26 through 35, were Pete Rose, Walter Payton, Jerry Rice, Honus Wagner, Ken Griffey Jr., Dale Earnhardt, Jack Johnson, Kristi Yamaguchi, Eric Heiden, and Arthur Ashe. All the next 10 got in from last year to this year. Our next 10 out this year: Walter Johnson, Mary Lou Retton, Jeff Gordon, George Foreman, Wilma Rudolph, Warren Spahn, Joan Benoit, Yogi Berra, Brett Hull, and Caitlin/Bruce Jenner are the next 10 who are just out. So in case you guys are wondering.
Last year, you said the top 10 all got in. Who was the first one that didn't get in this year, last year, like 11, 12?
The first one who did not get in was the pride of the City of Champions, Brockton, Massachusetts, Rocky Marciano.
Wow.
The Brockton, Massachusetts has 2 former heavyweight champions with him and Hearns, are both from.
What about Sugar Ray Robinson?
So the next Sugar Ray Robinson is on the list. He finished 63rd.
Oh my God. the better.
So
yeah,
two-
I totally agree with you. Like one thing, Upton, we have had a problem, and Evan can tell you how much I've been really trying to pound the table for voters to get on this. I love boxing. We've inducted some great heavyweights. We have not inducted a non-heavyweight yet.
correct. Yeah.
I can tell you this. Going all the way back, I saw Marciano box. I saw Joe Louis. I've seen some of the greatest boxers of all time. The two greatest boxers I've ever seen. Sugar Ray Robinson, number one. If Muhammad Ali didn't study, which he did, he studied all of his moves. And Ali once told me that that Sugar Ray Robinson was the reason that he fought the way he did. But I've never seen a greater boxer, more stylish, could take a punch, everything else like that was Sugar Ray Robinson. He is in a league by himself, and then Ali is in the heavyweight league. They're the two greatest boxers I've ever seen. I've seen most of them.
Yep. To answer your question, Dave, the next one's 11 through 17 out, didn't get in, and then there's a big group after who did. So that next group was Rocky Marciano, Pete Sampras, Mia Hamm, Josh Gibson, Scott Hamilton, Tony Hawk, Mickey Mantle, who's still not in through 3 ballots, which is crazy to me, and Sugar Ray Leonard. So yeah, and Mantle did much worse this time for some reason. I don't know if it just got passed over or what it was. Where did he end up?
Yeah, the
Mantle was tied for 72nd with Johnny Bench and Tom Seaver.
They were all three on mine. I'm a baseball guy, so
yeah. So Mantle is. I mean, coming into this, Rice and Sweetness were the two I couldn't believe weren't in, and we're now at the point where it's Mantle is the biggest surprise to me at this point. So
nobody hit a ball farther than Mantle. Nobody.
So.
And a great athlete.
Yeah. So yeah.
If I can interject for a second, I just wanted to not only kind of thank you all for your insight to all the comments that you guys have made, but I wanted to take the time too as well to acknowledge Jack Moore, which in my opinion, I've been around a lot of baseball people, a lot of scouts. Jack Moore is probably the best the person that can identify talent in baseball better than anybody else I've ever been around. And I've been around some Hall of Fame GMs. I've been around a lot of owners, and I've been around 7 or 8 Hall of Famers in baseball. And Jack Moore, bar none, is the best.
Love you too, brother. I appreciate that, but I love you too, man. I've been blessed. I've seen some pretty good players.
I think of the 25 players, I think about half are dead versus alive. I was kind of taking notes. It was about 12 to 13, one way or the other. I might have missed one.
Yeah, so Hayden, Connors, King, Joyner-Kersee, Sanders, Griffey, Yamaguchi, Kuzi, Rice, Earnhardt Jr., Schmidt, Gable, Couture, and that's it. So 13, yes, 13 are, 12 are not.
Dungy and Holtz on the coach side. Yep.
Dungy and Holtz. Yep. And my Upton, my brother was the sports media director for Notre Dame and the play-by-play guy for them for years and years and years, and interviewed Holtz all the time. So I have gotten to meet him very briefly.
You get a word in edgewise with Holtz?
Yeah, it's hard with Holtz to get a word in edgewise. I actually have a mask upstairs, I think, one of those paper masks with Holtz's
unbelievable. I knew Holtz when he was at North Carolina State, and he got in a fight with a professor that was coming on the practice field during the week, and he threw him off the practice field. I mean, there are great stories about Holtz. I do want to ask you about one guy that I thought probably is the greatest what if in all of sports, and that was Bo Jackson.
So Jackson's been on all 3 ballots.
Unbelievable. You know what? If he had not been injured, I believe that he would have been in both the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the Baseball Hall of Fame. He was that great.
Yeah. So he finished 66 in year 1, 82nd in year 2, and he jumped back up to 70th this year. So he finished right between Wyoming Attias and Jenny Thompson. were the people on either side of him this year. So he's been kind of in the middle here. I mean, part of this is they're just like that first class was Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, Hank Aaron, Jim Thorpe, Jim Brown, Jesse Owens,
Babe Ruth, yeah.
Babe Ruth. Yeah, those guys are out. Last year's class was interesting to both of us. It was a little less, what's the word I'm looking for? A little less like icons I expected people to have on there. Not that any of them, but it's like Mark Spitz, Bonnie Blair, John McEnroe, Chrissy Everett, Mike Tyson, Nolan Ryan, Red Grange, Oscar Robertson, Sammy Baugh, Otto Graham, Don Hudson, Cy Young, Edwin Moses, Ty Cobb, Matt Biondi, Julius Irving, Richard Petty, AJ Foyt, Dorothy Hamill, Peggy Fleming, Rogers Hornsby, Florence Griffith Joyner, Mario Andretti, Joe Frazier, and Johnny Unitas. So there still seemed like there were some iconic people.
Thorpe? What about
Thorpe was in the first. Thorpe was in the first class.
Okay.
So you're kind of running out. You were kind of running out of the people that you think were can't miss. Like I see, the Mantle thing still blows my mind.
Yeah, Mantle blows my mind.
What about Ted Williams?
Well, who?
Ted Williams, is he in yet?
Oh yeah, Ted Williams. So I'll read that first class. That first class: Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, Hank Aaron, Jim Thorpe, Jim Brown, Jesse Owens, Jackie Robinson, Babe Ruth, Larry Bird, Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Ted Williams, Joe Louis, Magic Johnson, Carl Lewis, Wilt Chamberlain, Willie Mays, Martina Navratilova, Joe DiMaggio, Lou Gehrig, Roberto Clemente, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Bade Dietrichson Zaharias, and Joe Montana. That was
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
you're like, how did Montana finish 25th?
Yeah. Well, look at the other 24, and you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. But Kirk and I were both very excited that Bade Dietrichson Zaharias got in. I was worried she was forgotten.
Another Texan, Beaumont, Texas.
Yeah. Yep. But I mean, Bade Dietrichson Zaharias, when she died, was the #1 rated women's golfer in the world. She won multiple medals, gold medals at the Olympics in track and field, was invited to and pitched in spring training for the St. Louis Cardinals. And I haven't found anything to say differently. While at that spring training, she threw from home plate into the bleachers on the fly. And as I knew, it's still, I believe, the furthest recorded throw of a baseball by a woman in history. And she did it in 1941.
No, Trevor Bauer. Oh, sorry.
Easy.
Wow.
Yeah. How did Trevor? No, he's not 50 yet. How did Trevor Bauer finish? Never.
Yeah, he did. So
can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm okay. Two things. Number one, there needs to be a list now by sport. If you're in the third year, you got to be able to look at it that way, because we're getting confused just going back and forth. So that's the next thing in the next couple of weeks. It's got to be by sport as well. But there's not a single hockey player on there.
There's not.
Oh,
we've had on the ballot. So like we've had Brett Hull, I believe, from year one.
Yeah, Hull. It was in
Madonna
the next 10.
Chelios.
Madonna, Chelios, and Hull have been on here. Madonna finished absolutely last year. He was the absolute last person.
What about Orr?
Orr's Canadian. So yeah, Orr, Gretzky, Gordie Howe, Bobby Hull, those guys are Canadian. So they are.
I had a couple good ones like on the ballot to try to move through. Ron, I know that you're big on Frank Brimsek, and Chris and I we're huge on Cami Granado, but we haven't been able to get her on the ballot yet. Even though
she's not 50, does she have to be 50?
Oh, she's well over 50.
Is she? Okay, but I mean that's the problem. There's so many good hockey players that came after 1980 because that's where everybody started watching hockey.
Yeah. So where this next class I said is 1975. So the people are going to be added to the ballot. The first ballot people who can be voted on by the committee are Tito Ortiz, Tina Thompson, Ray Lewis, Allen Iverson, Jimmy Johnson from auto racing, Alex Rodriguez, and Tiger Woods. So those are the first ballot people who are going to be joining the group that you guys are going to be voting on coming up here. So.
You talk about Brett Hull and Chris Chelios, and we can't even Mantle in. I mean, I just don't see a hockey player cracking some of this greatness of American sports. They're just not that good at hockey, that great at hockey.
Not
It's
yet.
a shame.
Not from that era.
Yeah, I mean, right now, yeah,
right. Yeah, there'll be a time when it moves along, and some goalies and some other guys. But
Chris and I talk about this all the time.
I grew up 3 blocks from where Jeremy Roenick grew up, and I would tell you he thinks he should be in this Hall of Fame. So.
How about Herb Brooks?
Herb Brooks was in the first class, so he and Bill Belichick tied for the 5th spot in that first class.
So we have 3 coaches / contributors. I mean, Brooks, Herb Brooks, and Bob Johnson. But the funniest thing that for us, or not the funny, well, yeah, actually it is. We did what the Hockey Hall of Fame didn't do. We inducted Frank Zamboni.
So yeah.
I never thought when I wrote that up, because like I'm pretty much the one doing all the coaches and contributors, and I think what we might do, and now that we sort of have this, and since all of you are going to be voting moving forward, Evan and I have been talking about we want to expand a few things, and one of which would be broadcasters. Do you all think that would be something worth adding to the United States Athletic Hall of Fame? Broadcasters, and then possibly media and journalism in a separate category.
Absolutely.
This is Howard Cosell on sports. I am the greatest.
But isn't that the whole problem? Is that the national guys get all the attention, and yet that guy you grew up on, your local guy, is the one that mattered the more to you, right? So Howard Cosell was he was a great performer, not necessarily a great announcer, but if you listened to whoever it was, Ernie Harwell in Detroit growing up, that's your guy. And you'll fight for him forever. Yeah, and so there's a real difficulty trying to balance that out. But certainly in the recent Hockey Hall of Fame induction thing. Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is, like, what's an analyst compared to a play-by-play guy? I would imagine. Or a color guy. Right? Don Cherry's the biggest celebrity in Canadian hockey history, but he's not in the Hall of Fame because there's no category for him.
Also, the racial statements. But
that too.
Yeah,
that shouldn't stop.
A lot of layers to the onion.
That's okay.
Yeah. So,
but when you do it, it's got to be a bigger picture than just saying announcer somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I grew up with that's the most despicable thing I ever saw. Johnny Rose.
Well, the obvious hockey would be Al Michaels. I mean, given the moment, and also his career in general. Yeah. But I mean, 1980 Olympics, do you believe in miracles? I mean, that's the icon there.
That brings up another thing that we were sort of asking before about like different categories. Because like one of the most iconic people, especially since we're only a week removed from Thanksgiving, he's on our coaches list, but John Madden arguably is far more known as an announcer. Do we put him on both lists?
Yeah, that's something to think about.
People know him from the video game now.
Oh, they're
that's right. Yeah, the new generation
that he was.
I can tell you that Madden. I met John when he was a coach at San Diego State, assistant coach, and I can tell you this: he made a bigger reputation for himself as an announcer, but he was a great coach. I would pick him, and he is in the NFL Hall of Fame, but I would pick him in your Hall of Fame tomorrow as a coach. He was a brilliant tactician, and he sold a lot of outlaws on the idea that we could play together. That was the Raiders. He was a terrific coach. Anyway,
he finished 14th this year, by the way. Just by the way, with coaches, the first 2 who didn't get in year 1 were Bear Bryant and Phil Jackson. For the next year, the top 2 people who weren't in from last year are Bear Bryant and Phil Jackson. This year, the top 2 people who did not get in were Phil Jackson and Bear Bryant. So they have been the next 2 guys out each of those years, which has been kind of crazy to me.
They'll be in eventually.
Paul Brown in?
Have to be, yeah.
What?
Paul Brown?
Is Paul Brown in?
Paul Brown. Paul Brown, yes, he was in last year. He was the second leading vote getter last year.
He's my greatest coach of all time. Innovator, changed the game totally. Terrific.
Yeah. So Curly Lambeau, Paul Brown, Amos Alonso, Stagg, Walter Camp, and Joe Gibbs. We had 5 basic football / Joe Gibbs, I guess technically with auto racing guys who got in last year. So, All right. Is there
can I make a real quick point?
Oh, yeah,
when you brought up when you brought up the media thing, I'm thinking of this as we're talking a lot of professional sports. There's some amateur involved, no doubt, with the different kind of different sports. But when I think about professional sports, part of it's the entertainment, but part of it's the memories. I have so many great memories, pro football and baseball, of course, Vin Scully. Like, so when I think of Vin Scully, he's a Hall of Fame something, you know, to grow up in America. And then when you bring up Madden, Pat Summerall, he wasn't a star as a player, but then he has this phenomenal career. So a lot of us growing up in a certain era, that was pro football to us, Madden and Summerall, or Vin Scully for God, over half a century. So I do think there's a place that those people need to be recognized. And I understand the local part too. Frank Herzog was a radio guy that I listened to with the Washington Redskins that 90% of the population of the country would not know who he was. He was phenomenal. He was play-by-play guy. So there were those local people too that half the country or 90% of the country would not know, but they did mean a lot to us in areas we were in. But I think the Scullys and you know, and the people like that need recognition for sure.
And guys like Summerall did golf. Guys like Keith Jackson did baseball. Vince Scully, I think, called the catch from Dwight Clark. I mean, some of these guys, they weren't just a one-trick pony.
Yeah, don't forget Jack Buck. I don't believe what I just saw.
And he did football as well.
He did. Do you know who was the first original NFL color man and damn good? Red Grange.
Really?
Red Grange was the original television man back in the 50s. And he was really good. I mean, you know, you had guys like Al DeRogatis that did it, and people would say DeRogatis, D-Ro talks too much and so on. Grange was really good because he brought his experience as a player into the booth, and he was good. He wasn't some jerk just coming in there and doing it. He was really good.
No. All right. Any last thoughts? We're coming up on 2 hours. I appreciate all your guys' time.
I had one thing. It's a little show and tell. You had Hannes Wagner being inducted.
Wow.
And I had a little baseball. It's kind of banged up and you can barely see the signature, but
pretty cool.
He owned a sporting goods store in Pittsburgh when I lived there. And they would give the baseballs out, and this was in my great aunt's basement. And I'm like, oh God, no.
Cool.
I wanted to say really quick what an honor it was to be on here with Mr. Bell. Your father, there is no NFL without your dad.
Yeah. No, thank you, and please, it's something, not Mr. Forget the Mr. bullshit.
Well, God bless the work your family's done, because like I said, the people that really know the history, there is no NFL that we know today without your dad. So God bless you.
Thank you. I will tell you something quickly that people do not know, and I told it the night that his statue was unveiled, is that my father's father was one of the richest people in Philadelphia. And my father went to him and said, I want to buy the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets and rename them in the NFL. And his father said, not a goddamn cent, Bert, for anything that has to do with pro football. His father actually negotiated with Teddy Roosevelt to try and stop Roosevelt from banning college football. So his father was a big college football guy. He said, no way. My father had secretly married my mother, Frances Upton, who was a Ziegfeld Folly star on Broadway and made more money than he ever made. And so when it came to buying the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets out of bankruptcy, thanks to Frances Upton, or Bert Bell never would have owned the Eagles. She put the money up, $4,000, which was a lot of money there in 1933. So if it wasn't for Frances Upton, we wouldn't be talking about Bert Bell today. So thank you all.
God bless you, sir.
Awesome.
It was an honor to have all of you here. Upton, thanks for all sort of the stories. I felt like it was like a living history moment.
Yeah.
And it meant a lot to all of us.
It's my honor.
Shout out from Houston, Texas.
My honor to be with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Upton. We really appreciate you. And thank you also for your support of Richmond Web. I had to get that plug in.
Terrific.
Yeah. I think we all support Richmond Webb for the Hall of Fame. So.
Yeah. See, Ron, I thought you would just relax after Gradisher got in. You'd have nothing to worry about, but here you go again.
Well, there were a lot of takeaways, and the Broncos aren't real big on
promotion
doing things further. So, and Upton knows this story. Our friend Dan, whose last name it's spelled differently, Marino, from Paris, France, is the biggest advocate for Richmond that's out there.
Right, I did a whole thing with him on Richmond Web. I will tell you that in talking to Don Shula, he and I remain friends till the end of his life, is that he said, and Shula doesn't overpraise people, he said Webb was one of the best he's ever had. And there's no reason why he shouldn't be in there, but things have really changed with the voting now. They've made it very narrow, and a lot of guys from the past are really getting screwed. But hopefully Webb will make it in.
We're trying, and thank you for your efforts. I mean, the one thing with all of these, with Hall of Fame, it's interesting to see how, like 20 years later, narratives change rather than, things in the player's era that were recognized by even Hall of Fame voters that differentiate, like a Richmond Webb from a Willie Anderson, from a Lomas Brown, and those folks. How now they're like, trying to massage other stats from the periphery.
Here's the thing.
Overshadow.
Here's the thing that killed the voting is many of the voters don't care about anything that's the 60s and under. Mm-hmm. And analytics has played a big role in this whole thing. That's why I like what you guys are doing, is that basically they don't care. And so there are guys like Maxie Baum was one of the best linebackers of his era. He can't get a sniff. And that's because they don't know who these people are. And frankly, they don't care. So,
and you mentioned Al Wistert.
Yeah, well, Al Wistert should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago. And he can't even get out of the first round. But that's it. People don't care about that. And that's what's happened to it. This is more egalitarian. It's out in the open. Nobody can hide their vote. It's a great idea, and hopefully it will continue to grow over a period of time. I love it, what you guys are doing.
Thank you, Upton.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Well,
go ahead and close out, Commish.
All right, I guess
Chairman.
All right, we'll bring this to a close. My signature close. Wherever you are, wherever you may be, make today count because it never comes again. Take care, everybody.
See you later, guys.
See you later, guys.